All right, thanks for joining us, everybody, for our Cassandra Town Hall. Really excited. We have Sarma here, who's going to be doing a presentation on Prometheus Grafana dashboard for Apache Cassandra 5. So before we get too deep into that, I just want to share some community stuff with you all. All right, so first up, next week on Tuesday, for the contributor call, we have Jaideep Kumar Chubachya, who's presenting CEP 37, Apache Cassandra official repair solution. So if you want to join that, you can scan this QR code. Hope it didn't get cut off. Well, try scanning that QR code and register for that event. So that'll be next Tuesday at 10 a.m. You can also find it on the meetup page if for whatever reason that QR code got cut off. So yeah, that'll be exciting. Hope you can join us for that. I just want to do a few community content spotlights. So Maxim Muzafarov, who is one of the Apache Cassandra catalysts, he just released a blog post making drop wizard metrics accessible via CQL in Apache Cassandra. And then also, actually, you can, and if you want to read that article, you can scan that QR code. And also, I'm sure a lot of you have seen, but John Haddad, he's been posting some videos or doing them live on Tuesdays. I just put a link to one of the videos for massively scalable time series with Apache Cassandra. So you can also scan the QR code there if you want to check that out. And then I just wanted to make a announcement just to congratulate Brad Schoening, who would accept the invitation to be a PMC committer, or he's accepted the invitation from the PMC to become a committer. All right. And then lastly, if you are interested in presenting for a contributor call, or if you have something like a use case you'd want to present at the town hall, by all means, reach out to me and we can try and get you scheduled to do some presentations. Yeah, so that's all I have for community updates. So yeah, I will pass it over to Sarma, who has a presentation for us. So yeah, take it away, Sarma.
Hey, thank you, Paul. Hope you can hear me, right? Let me also share my screen. So you're able to see that screen properly, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Good.
Give me 1 second here. Okay, so I worked on Prometheus and Grafana a little bit back in 2020, 2021 area. And then what happened is just a brief background. You know me by a nickname Oramad. I'm mad about Oracle. That's how I started my career. 1996 is when I started with Oracle. You can see the clear pattern. 20 years later, I fell in love with Cassandra. And today I use both databases. I do a lot of community work on Cassandra. There are my links, you can go to GitHub, look at my work. Even though my YouTube channel says Oracle by example, I do a lot of work for Cassandra. So definitely check out my YouTube links, YouTube channel. I made some Cassandra courses. Basically, Udemy is a very good platform to share content, but in a structured format, like training format. So, and a lot of people wonder, like, how do I say my last name? So my name is Sarma Paidipalli. Let's just jump into today's topic. So when you run any size cluster, is it small or big, you need to have observability. And with open source, we have nice tools like Grafana and Prometheus. So idea was to just use open source tools because we are open source. We are doing a lot with Cassandra. So why not use open source tools to have observability? Now, there were some dashboards which were existing already when I started looking at this problem. You can see, maybe you're not able to read the text, but don't worry about that. All the existing dashboards for Cassandra are either very old and they're not kept up to date with the versions. as soon as Grafana releases a new version of Grafana, you have to go back and re-verify all the widgets you're using. So if they don't do that, some of the widgets are broken. Some of the metrics don't show up. So it is a constant race to keep our metrics, the Grafana widgets working. When Grafana releases a new version, we have to make sure it all works well. Our dashboard works with the new version of Grafana. Most of the dashboards or the observability tools today, even till today, they still use JMX, and I hate JMX, just being very open. I know some of the people on this meeting today, or even outside, a lot of people don't like JMX. It is slow and it is cumbersome. So I don't want to use JMX code. Solution, obviously, as I mentioned, like Grafana and Prometheus, both are open source. We would like to use open source tools. But if we can keep the observability to be more efficient, but keep it very, very simple, a lot of people will get into this area where they can explore and develop it further. So just a disclaimer, I've always worked with the database. I'm not a Java person. I don't write Java code, but I will get into Java when it is required, like this project. So just to give you some introduction, on your right side, you see a Cassandra node. It already has something called drop wizard metrics, and all the metrics are published via drop wizard metrics library, or you call it as registry. Every Cassandra node by default comes with a JMX. Do not ever mess with JMX settings. It is by default very secure. If you're doing any changes, you're making it unsecure. So do not open any JMX ports for remote connections. It is already pre-secured. So don't worry about JMX. But I just show it on the diagram here so you know JMX is there, but we don't want to use JMX. On the left side, I show you the artifacts used in the Cassandra build project. Like if you go to the Cassandra source code, you will see this drop wizard library, which is being added during the build. So just to give you some artifacts and their mention about the drop wizard metrics. So how do we use the drop wizard metrics is basically, I think historical dates and other things come in the next slide. But what we do is there is a simple metrics YAML file which comes today with every single Cassandra version. It comes when we download the tarball. And on your left side, you can see the sample of this YAML file. So basically what we are saying is, hey, take all the metrics from the drop wizard metrics registry at a given interval, like say 900 seconds here, write all these metrics, whatever I'm whitelisting, into a text file. And then the text file has its own, like in a very basic format. You have to do something else to present it to Prometheus. But what you have to take away from this particular slide is there is a metrics reporter config, which is an extra module added to Cassandra, and it will allow, or the module will take care of taking the drop wizard metrics from the registry and dumping it into the text file. Obviously, this is done at every node, and this particular YAML file I started publishing about it or writing about it back in 2020 when I learned about it. I said, okay, this is a good mechanism. Without using JMX, we can get our metrics out. Now, this library was added back in April 2012 into Cassandra project. And you can see in Cassandra version 2.0.0, I mean 202, in October 2013, using the Jira ticket also, I mentioned there, our favorite Jonathan Ellis worked on that particular Jira ticket. He added that metrics reporter config module into Cassandra. And then in the left side, you see until this particular module is existing until Cassandra 5.0 Alpha 1. So I was in Florida, and December 24th, I was trying to do something. And then with Cassandra Beta 1, I see that metrics reporter is no longer working. So then I started digging around, and I found that metrics reporter was removed. So why it is removed is because the metrics reporter config is a module not written by Cassandra team. It is just an open source module, and there was no commits for like about 6 years. You can see the last commit was done in 2018, and the repo got archived in 2020. So obviously, we go to the next slide and see that metrics reporter is now very old. It's not being updated. Um, we as community, when we are releasing a new version of Cassandra, we would like to keep it up to date, make sure all the modules we use from open source are either maintained or then otherwise we have to look for alternatives. So around December last year, Cassandra 5 with beta 1 came out, and there was a Jira ticket during August, September. Some of us voted for removal of this old metrics reporter config. So I realized that happened, and like I was on December 24th night, just getting into Christmas. I get a gift that, hey, you are using this metrics reporter config, which is no longer supported. So how I was using the metrics reporter, you can see every node has metrics reporter plugged into, and I use a shell script to publish these metrics using node exporter. These metrics are published to Prometheus. So Prometheus at a regular interval. Prometheus is a server. You can have like high availability for Prometheus, but Prometheus can go at regular intervals, which you configure in the Prometheus configuration, and say, hey, go to all these nodes and get the metrics from node exporter. So Prometheus level, you can also have alert manager, which can send out alerts like say your observability is at the Prometheus level now. As soon as Cassandra node goes down, that metric somehow is published onto Prometheus, and alert manager can send out alerts saying node went down, or some other alerts like say your compactions are suffering. Let's say that's just an example there. Prometheus is just collecting the metrics in this architecture. I use Grafana to present that. So we want to see all the metrics in a nice representation. So at the bottom layer, the third layer, you see Grafana showing beautiful charts and graphs and stuff. This project I worked on was back in 2021, February. Around that time, I published Grafana dashboard using this particular architecture. And again, remember that I'm not using JMX. Since then, I made some updates. There were some fixes for some of the metrics were not showing properly. So I did update the dashboard a couple of times, maybe 4 times. But now that we came to Cassandra 5 beta 1, and the metrics reporter is no longer there. The metrics reporter is there, but metrics reporter config module is removed. We have to find an alternative. So let me first show you what I did in the past 1 month, like during January, and then we can come back and look at the slide on how it is changing going forward. So I worked with John Haddad. A lot of us admire him. He does a lot of nice work. He recently started publishing a lot of YouTube videos. I was just discussing with John, say, hey, going forward with Cassandra 5, since I don't have a way to publish this metrics, what do we do? And then, he's so good. Within a couple of hours, he said, hey, look at this 40-line code. What it does is basically registers itself to the drop wizard metrics registry. And whenever you ask, you go to this endpoint, it is publishing all the metrics as endpoint, it will give you metrics in Prometheus format. Now remember, there is a small issue here is you cannot take all 20,000 metrics or 30,000 metrics and present them to Prometheus, because you need to add extra labels. Relabeling is main important thing. So you can group them when you look at the cluster view or the node view, even data center view, let's say, in your observability dashboard. So we need to process a little bit more. But I took this code, which is basically just a very simple look at the Cassandra metrics registry or drop wizard metrics registry and publish those metrics as Prometheus endpoint. So I took that source code, the code written by John, and as I mentioned, I don't write Java code, but here is an exception. I had to play with the whole thing and say, hey, let me change the Java code in such a way that it does what I want it to do. So the reason we go into Java code here, I mean, you don't have to look at it, but I just wanted to show how easy it is, meaning we don't have to have 1,000-line Java code or agent doing complicated stuff. It can be kept simple. If you have anything to take away from this, this is just basically, we are saying, hey, register to Cassandra metrics registry whenever it becomes available. So during a Cassandra node restart, if you had the agent already pre-configured, it will just wait for Cassandra to start publishing this registry or the metrics through the registry. And when it is ready, you see one line comment saying, okay, metrics are ready as an agent. Then continuing that code, basically, if you look at the code, the way it is written is, once the registry is ready, it will register itself, and the agent is listening. Now agent has access to the metrics, and there is a pre-configured interval which was defined previously. I want to write every 5 minutes, take this metrics and write it into a file. 5 minutes is okay. Basically we have a 40 node cluster, 2 nodes going down, no big deal. You can observe every 5 minutes. But I will tell you how efficient this agent is, and you can configure it to run every minute. But right now on line number 28, you can see by default, it is configured to just run it at every 5 minutes. So every 5 minutes, it will just take whatever metrics are there and dump it into the text file. This text file is on every node, and then we have to do something with it. But good part of this is it already gets the metrics in Prometheus format and writes it into the text file. So the basic code looks like this, and then there is a small method or a function you can call, like, it takes all those metrics every 5 minutes and writing it into the text file. This portion here is just writing the metrics to text file. So just to give you a summary, the jar file, okay, basically one thing I have to mention here, this particular instrumentation code does not work with Java 8. It requires Java 11, and it works with Java 17, obviously. So since it does not work with Java 8, there are a lot of compatibility issues with the previous versions of Cassandra. So I'm only targeting this agent for Cassandra 5 and above. And minimum you have to run is Java 11 or Java 17. This does not work with Java 8. Now the compiled jar is just a very small file. Actual code is just 40 lines, and then there is a lot of comments on it and all that stuff. And the code is published on GitHub. You can see the link is at the bottom of the screen. What it does, this agent, at every 5 minutes, it goes and takes all the metrics from registry and dumps it into a text file. That text file, as is, without doing any changes, is like 4.5 megabyte file. It writes about 20,000 metrics on a very small cluster. The nodes are not very busy. I have to still test it with very busy nodes, but it publishes about 20,000 metrics. And out of 20,000 metrics, or the file, which is 4 MB file, about 15,000 of them are commented lines. If you look at Prometheus formatted file, you can see that every metric is given a comment which says, hey, this is the kind of metric you're looking at. It's a gauge, it's a number, it's a count or percentage. Now on the right side, bottom right side, I see I put a screenshot of how the metrics look like. The last line over there is like, the total number of compactions completed. You can see that is a 13 compactions only. This is just a screenshot to show you a sample of how the metrics look like when you look at this file, which was generated by the Java agent we created. Now I'm not looking at the chat right now for the questions, but we can get to that a little later, and I can always go back to these slides. Just to poke some fun at existing projects, there is a project called MCSE, Metrics Collector for Apache Cassandra. The agent we wrote, I mean, I give half of the credit goes to John, but the agent we wrote is 40 lines of Java code. Compare it to MCSE is 22 Java files with 4,000 lines of code. So I don't know, you decide which one is more complicated to debug. Okay, let's talk about how do we use this agent. Obviously, you have this agent plugged into every node, every Cassandra node. As I mentioned, when you get the metrics, you get 20,000 metrics or 40,000 metrics. There is no use of publishing that to Grafana. It's just overwhelming amount of data, and most of the metrics may not make any sense. So we need to do some processing, and I chose to do it via shell script. I'm good at shell scripting. I believe I'm good at it. I wrote some 500 lines of shell script. It's okay. It's just a simple shell script. It takes the text file, picks up whatever metrics we need, and only selected metrics are then transformed into something I can present to Prometheus. So obviously Cassandra has this agent which is writing metrics to text file. Shell script picks up that text file and just transforms everything so it can present it to Prometheus. Node exporter is a Prometheus agent. So node exporter is running on every node of Cassandra, which then publishes these metrics as an endpoint. So simple website, that website has all the metrics published. And Prometheus is configured in such a way that every 3 minutes, every 2 minutes, it goes and scrapes for those metrics. So Prometheus server will go to the node exporter agent and say, hey, give me all the metrics. And none of these are written in a blocker kind of mechanism, meaning whenever Prometheus asks for metrics, node exporter has something to show, meaning it will not say, hey, I did not receive the metrics yet. Whatever is the current state is published to Prometheus server. And as I mentioned earlier, you can have the alert manager at Prometheus server level, which will also have full observability to what metrics are coming in. And based on certain rules, you can send out alerts. Let's say, for example, it detects that your Cassandra node is down. One of the node is down. It looks at the status. It says, hey, I have a rule here which says I have to send an email or a page to some team so they can take a action on that node. And then Prometheus is just a time series. I don't want to call it database. It's just a time series data store, which is keeping all these metrics in an organized form. And then we can use Grafana to pull those metrics and show a nice dashboard. Now, this is an updated project. I just worked during January. I am adding more metrics to Grafana dashboard right now because I started to see, hey, I can add compactions related metrics into that. So that's just an example, but I'm working on this right now. It's always a work in progress to improve. And when I'm doing that, I'm finding some bugs from the previous generation of metrics. So I'm fixing those as we go. Um, as I mentioned, the old versions of Cassandra, wherever the dashboard is there, I'm just not going to fix those bugs. This is a project which looks at Cassandra 5 and onwards. So we just focus on fixing bugs for Cassandra 5 and make sure all metrics are properly published. That way, when Cassandra 5 comes out, it goes to field. Our community members will have a tool which they can start using it on day one. Well, this is just a slide which shows all the different dashboards in one place, just a sales pitch there. But here is the project. You should just go to GitHub. If you like it, definitely leave a star for the repo. All community members who are doing open source work, we don't expect money. We just expect that star on the repo. So, my very good friend Patrick published this during the summit. I missed going to summit this year or last year, but I'm happy that community recognizes Catalyst, and I congratulate all the members who were in the first round of Catalyst. So thank you very much for that, and that's the end of slides. What I can do is take a look at the chat.
Yeah, thank you so much, Sarma. That was great. I'll just mention, if anybody wants to ask some questions, feel free to add them in the chat, and then we can ask Sarma.
Sure.
I did want to ask Sarma, I think you had mentioned you could show an example of the dashboard. Did you want to show us a little of that?
Yeah, I can do that. So thank you for asking about that. So the reason I gave a break there, like I was talking half an hour. So those are the slides. Let me get some water.
Sure.
And thank you for this t-shirt. I love this stuff. So, okay. What I did is I constantly run some virtual machines at home. Either I'm fixing bugs, I'm trying out new changes to not just this dashboard, but let's say a new version of Cassandra comes out, I immediately want to build it and try. So what I do is I have my own VMs. They're not very heavily loaded, or they're not beefy, so they're like a little bit of RAM here and there. But this is the dashboard which was published earlier, and I'm updating it, so you will see some updates. Don't worry too much about the font, but what I can do is it has these filters on the top. Obviously, Grafana itself gives you an option to see how much data you want to pull. For example, you want to look at last 12 hours or last just 1 hour. You can filter this on the top, and this is nothing to do with my dashboard. It's just a basic Grafana stuff. And you can also set how frequently you want to refresh. You can make it auto refresh, or you want to refresh every 30 minutes. That's up to you. Those are default in Grafana. I don't have to do anything special for that. Now, what I did was generally speaking, when I make this dashboard, imagine at work, I use this dashboard. I rely on other things, but this dashboard gives me a very good view of what I want to see. I have seen a lot of dashboards show a lot of charts as soon as you load, and then those charts are always refreshing. They take time, and you have no clue what you're looking at. They look nice, but you don't know what you're looking at. So what I did was there are filters for, like, you have multiple clusters. You can filter by cluster. And when you select the cluster, you can filter by the data center, or you can pick a host you want to see. There are all the key spaces level, or you want to look at a specific table. So all those filters are already there on the dashboard. So you can use that to your advantage when you're looking at certain, you're trying to monitor a specific key space, let's say. This is very helpful. What I'll do is I'll just reduce the font here, but what I want to show you is this is just a summary view of all your servers in one shot, but I have the system metric separately and then Cassandra metric separately. So this just gives me a quick view of how long these servers were running, what version they're running operating system wise. And then I have storage. You can see how the mount points are loaded. I have also noticed that we run out of inodes in Linux, and I don't want to, figure that out after going to the shell. I wanted to put a metric here. Obviously, my server does not have too many files, so they're all at 0 right now. You can look at the system memory and system CPU. Since I'm running virtual machines, they're all at 100%. But they're all running with like 4 GB RAM or something, 4 servers. I do have other servers which are running. There is one server for Prometheus and Grafana, the separate server. Now let's get into the Cassandra metrics. Just spend like another 5 minutes, look at the dashboard. So there are some bugs in this. I already know what are the bugs, so I'm fixing them. But the idea is basically you at a one glance for this cluster, how many nodes are there, how many are up and down, and how many data centers are there, how many nodes are in each data center. You can see that in one view here. You can expand this panel here, which tells you this is a summary view. For example, we are upgrading the cluster. There are some nodes running a different version of Cassandra, which will be visible here. And I recently ran into a problem. We have a parallel team who did automation and say, okay, you build this 8-node cluster. They built the cluster, but what I realized after 4 or 5 days is they built 6 nodes with one version and 2 nodes with different version. And unless we go look for the version, we don't see that view. This is the view where you can clearly see all nodes are running same version. But there is other information there, like uptime is very useful. This is not the system uptime. This is the Cassandra uptime. I don't have too much data, but you can see whatever is there in the summary. Storage errors. I noticed over years, I never see the storage errors, which is good. If we had errors, then we have to be worried about. So I like that there are no errors. But I have not seen that in years, which is good. My environment is like, healthy. This is the Cassandra memory. So heap memory, basically we have our heap objects. All the mem tables by default are configured to go into heap. And also you can see the garbage collection happening. What I do in this view is I show you what is the heap allocated and what is the used. And then also there is a off heap objects, like we can generally, we should go back and edit our YAML files to make sure our mem tables go on the off heap memory. If you have a very large cluster and very huge amount of writes happening, that's always helpful to keep them off heap. Obviously, this is a big discussion about performance tuning and all. Let's just stay with the dashboard here. So,
Yeah. Sorry, there was a
yeah,
question about that one.
I will take that question. Actually, that's an interesting thing we need to talk about. What I want to point out here is if you carefully observe, like if I pick one server here, you can see that pattern of heap going up and then drop. That's the garbage collection happening. So if my garbage collection is happening every 30 seconds, I should be worried. Right now I see about 20-25 minutes, so which is good. And this is how your graph should look like with a 10 to 20 minutes of gap. Now, if you have a busy server, obviously you might have more garbage collection happening or GC pause. Every time there is a drop, that's a GC pause. We have to be very careful with that. I did use the graph, which is a step graph. I could use something like a nice curve, which might not show you how long it paused. But also remember the pauses might not be reflected here because we are not collecting every second. The metrics are collected at an interval. And still, I don't want to see my garbage collection happening every minute. That will be too much garbage collection. So this view, I generally like to talk a little bit more, because this is a known issue with Cassandra. If somebody did not tune their garbage collection, or the GC pauses, right? That's indicated here on the graph. Then I don't have any metric here, but you do. If you have an option to configure all the key cache, row cache, counter cache, generally they're not configured by default. But if the caches were configured, then you will see how many hits you're getting and misses you're getting. There are some more metrics. I don't want to go through every single metric here, but query language, I have used this before. My app team has very bad rep. They don't do the prepared statements, and that's what is visible here immediately. If you had unprepared statements, then how many times they're executing it. Look at the last section, which tells you there are 83% time it was prepared statement, so which looks good. On the second node, it looks much better, is only 4% of the time they used unprepared statements. Now, if you don't get metrics for some reason, I don't have metrics from my fourth node. You see those blanks where I have to do some research on what is happening there. Commit logs, I'm not going to go into that. Clients. Okay, so this is one interesting view where I put the hints and client authentication in one place. So you see those 26 failures for client authentication. I had to be worried about. Was there a password change and they were using wrong password? That is visible here. I do have some more metrics, let's say key space related size metrics. Font is so small, don't bother. I wish you go to the project and check. What I want to show you is, you saw this earlier, right? When I click on the node, you can actually switch to a single node. This filter is already there on Grafana. So good thing with Grafana is it out of the box, it has a lot of stuff which we can directly use. And I can show you one more here. Like, right now you're looking at all 4 nodes, but I can click on this and only see a specific node. Now you might ask, how do I see all nodes again? I don't know. Once you click, it filters, but I don't know how to put all of them back. So maybe just refresh. That is the dashboard. I'm still working on adding more metrics to this, make it more efficient. I definitely like to get some help. There are some places where I don't know how to do things on Grafana, and ChatGPT seemed to not understand my questions, so I don't know yet. Now going to the question, there is a question here called what are some of the difficulties you faced while capturing Cassandra metrics with Drop Wizard metrics or Drop Wizard library? Is there any path of exporting Cassandra metrics with open telemetry, OLTP format, OTLP format? I'm not sure what is the format, but the open telemetry, there is a lot of discussion. Actually, I did not follow. This was one thing John was mentioning when I talked to him about Prometheus metrics. He said, hey, there is a CEP out there and we're all trying to get the open telemetry working. I don't know anything about it right now, to be frank. Now, there were challenges to get the drop wizard metrics. No, it was easy. I just had to spend a lot of time looking at Java code, understand how Cassandra is publishing them. And one evening it worked. And then I said, okay, let me document this whole thing. And that's where my Git came. So I published my findings on Git. I definitely suggest you read through what I put together. Generally, I don't want to give you a packaged product. Then you don't have flexibility of looking through and understanding what it does. My Git is like, step by step. Here is the shell script. You don't have to use my shell script. You can rewrite. You can take that shell and say, change this metric to something else. And then obviously you have to do work to fix your Grafana. But yeah, that's the presentation. Any other questions came through, or I don't see the rest of the chat here?
That's what we have so far. Does anybody else have any other questions that they want to ask? Well, so is this available now for people to play around with Sarma?
Yes. So let me open my Git. So I publish it here. There are other projects you can take a look. So the agent is published under a separate repository here. So you can basically take a look at the code. I have some instruction on how to build it. Like, you can clone this particular repo and then build it. As I mentioned, this only works with Java 11 or 17. But also, since it is a standard build, right? I already build these things and provide as a jar file. But you're welcome to look at the code. You're welcome to look at the source code from here. And you want to modify something, I put a long version just for, like, all the commented lines are there. In the long version, it's about 111 lines. But when you look at a short version, which is, I just remove all the comments, just make it straightforward. It's just 60 lines code. And removing all these blank lines, you reduce much more. But the code is published here. You can look at this repository. There is another repository you can look at, is the actual dashboard itself. And the way I do it is step by step, like, how do you get the metrics out? So there are two branches here, or you can say two folders, one for the Cassandra 4, and anything after Cassandra 5, we want to use the Prometheus Java agent. So these two are published here, and just for fun, there is one JMX page also. And that's how I am, like, I don't want to touch JMX. So yeah, the Git is already there. Please take a look. It has been up there for years, but now I'm just adding new Java based agent. And I'm going to rewrite some of the portions of this stuff because it's a work in progress.
All right. Yeah. Yeah, this is great. Thank you so much for your work. And also thanks to John. I don't think he's here, but I know you wanted to give him credit for his contributions as well. So yeah, this is great. Asarma, thank you so much for sharing and for putting this together. I know you did it in such a short amount of time. You hope you didn't spend too much of your Christmas getting too deep into this.
Well, I did spend my Christmas very well with family and all. I was on vacation, but some of us, we don't sleep. We want to make it better every day. So, but thank you. So I see Aaron responding there. I know Patrick is here. I cannot see the participant list, but let me look. So the reason I'm doing what I'm doing today is there are two people I should give credit to, Patrick and John Haddad. These are the two people, when I started falling in love with Cassandra, these are the two people who helped me learn it. So definitely I turn around and make my Udemy courses or any other YouTube videos just to help community. I want people to get the best out of it. We have the best tool, we have best software, and the best community here. So I thank you for everything, and this t-shirt.
Yeah. Well, we really appreciate your contributions. So yeah, I think that's it then. So thank you everybody for joining and for listening to Sarma present. So we'll catch you at the next town hall, but also just remember next Tuesday you can come to the Contra contributors call, and that's at 10 a.m. Pacific time. So make sure to head to Meetup to register for that if you haven't already. All right. Well, thanks everybody for joining, and see you next time.